Hey guys, hope you all have been well. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to be doing my first ever review for Sydney Grace, and the palette I'm going to be reviewing today is Be Mine. I believe this is going to be their Valentine's Day release. At least that's what the theme feels like. And they do have two different options for this palette. They have a light and a deeper option, and I did pick up the light one. This includes 27 grams of product, made in the USA, and an 18-month shelf life. As far as the packaging is concerned, it just comes with a cardboard sleeve. This is my preferred type of packaging. I like that it's thin, but it also protects the palette and it's easy access to get this out. And the palette itself does mimic the sleeve, and the way you're going to be able to tell the difference between the light and the deeper palette is a sticker that they place on the back. Now this is a cardboard packaging, but it is one of those more weightier cardboards. Comes with a great size mirror, and this is what the palette looks like. You get a good array of mattes and shimmers, and there is a great array of depth in the palette as well, and that allows you to gradate your looks with just one palette. The palette goes for $52, and with that you're going to be getting 15 shades. I think there's an obvious format to this palette. You have more of this brown row, this pink row, and then on the bottom you have more of an array of things to kind of mix in with these two rows. And then you have a matte black, which I feel is a lot more traditional in older palettes, having the matte black as an option to do like outer corner work or use as liner, and I do appreciate that. I like a black eyeshadow in a palette because I tend to use them for liners, so I feel like it's a well-rounded palette and there is some sort of format to it. And maybe in light of Valentine's and sort of the spring season, I'm going to do the pinks and purples in the eyeshadow palette. So primarily this center row. So applying a matte pink in Soulmate into the crease and above as my transition shade. This is the lightest shade in the palette, and it does show up on my complexion, and I am using a MAC 224 blending brush. I'm going to be taking the unit 309, and I'm going to go into the middle shade, which is Darling. It's slightly deeper than Soulmate, but in and around the same family. I'm going to pop that into my crease, and these eyeshadows are very pigmented. The word on the street is definitely holding up in this case as well. Now this is going to be the true test in whether or not it's a formulation that I'm going to love, and that is how the shades blend and transition into each other. And in my opinion, the best way to see it is when I do an outer corner color into my crease. So I'm going to take one of my favorite brushes to apply that outer corner color, and that is the Refer number 14. I'm taking this deep mahogany color. Pack on the color first. When I was doing the swatches for the palette, I noticed that the deeper shades had a harder time with swatching. They kind of came off patchy and very dry on application, didn't have that buttery finish. It seems as though, for right now at least, that's what it's doing when I'm trying to pack on the color. But again, my lids are just primed with the NARS primer and slightly set. So let's see how it blends on top of another eyeshadow. And I find there can be a difference. So now I'm blending it into that crease shade. Okay, so here is the verdict. It blends very well on top of other eyeshadows. If you build the color up, then it doesn't come off patchy, but on first application, like when you're trying to pack it on in one place, it feels as if it's gonna be. So if you can see right here, there's no patchiness anymore. I've kind of packed it on very evenly, and it doesn't look problematic in any way. So maybe just a little bit more work. So this is transition, crease, outer corner. I think I want to do this on the inner part of the lid and then from the center of the lid outwards. I will say this, from swatching, these shimmers, I mean, look at that. Holy crap. Gather yourself, Annabelle. I'm going to go on to that second shade in Cupid. They're so creamy, it's unbelievable. A little bit more flirty, and kind of melt these two together. I'm going to start off with the crease shade in Darling, and I'm using a MAC 219. taking that and just using that on my lower lash line, and then taking the outer corner color and pucker up and right on the outer corner of the lower lash line. What I think I want to do is take Smooch, which is this shade up here, and I'm going to pop that in my inner corner. All right, so that is the eye look. What I'm going to do is apply some eyeliner, falsies, come back, and then we'll continue on with my thoughts on this palette. Okay guys, here is the final look. It is lovely, it is glam. It's beautiful. I mean, what can I say? I will be inserting clips of the swatches one by one. And as I have that as an overlay in this video, I do want to speak a little bit about my experience swatching them. The shimmers themselves are perfect. There's no issues with them whatsoever. Every single one is going to be buttery, creamy, opaque, and exceptionally easy to glide on the lids. There's no issue at all. I will say that the dark black shade in Smitten is not the same formula as the other shimmers, and so I'm wondering if the intention was to make it a charcoal black with some glitter in it, because the texture itself is not the same as the other shimmers in the palette. Now we have the mattes. I have no problems with the lighter to medium matte shades. However, the shades Romance, Pucker Up, and My Person, which are the deeper shades in each of the rows, they did finger swatch very patchy. I did have to go a second round and try to even out the swatch. However, I will say that after applying it on my lids, I still find that it's going to be more difficult to blend out than some of the other eyeshadows, but it does have its saving grace in that you can fix it. It doesn't stay patchy the whole time. I can't speak on the other shades, but I'm feeling like since they're the same formula, it's going to end up working the same as well. But it applies a little bit iffy, kind of like, oh, this might be bad. And that's the way it started out when I was applying it in my outer corner. But as I started to build it up, blend it out, it all smoothed itself out. It was one solid color. It blended well into the crease. Everything worked out perfectly, but it does require some extra work. So in terms of the overall pigmentation quality of this palette, I'd give it a solid 8.5. And it really just boils down to those last few darker shades having a little bit more difficulty in blending out. And surprisingly, the matte black in this palette swatch better than the other two darker shades. So I think it's important to note though that it's really hard to judge a palette based on finger swatches. A lot of us use brushes to apply the eyeshadows onto the lids, and even though those darker shades were difficult to blend out on the eyes, it definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be when I did the finger swatches. So just bear that in mind. Finger swatches of eyeshadow palettes is definitely not the right way to judge a palette. There is one more thing I want to note after using this palette. This is the light version of the palette, which means that there is a deeper version. However, I don't know if they meant light as in this is gonna be the one for people with lighter skin tones. Because truth be told, I think this is perfect for medium skin tones. I think if you have fair to light skin, this is gonna show up rather deep, medium to deep on your complexion. The lightest shade, which is Soulmate, is a perfect transition shade for me, which can translate into being a crease shade for someone who is lighter than me. So if that gives you an idea of what I'm talking about, there's so much depth in this palette, and I love that about it. I'm not complaining, but there might be confusion in terms of the light and deeper options, being that this is definitely going to be deeper for light skin tones. If we have similar skin tones, I wouldn't go for the deeper palette. This is, I mean, it's perfect already. Every single shade in this palette shows up on me. So now we've come to the end of the video, and I will say that I'm very thoroughly impressed by Sydney Grace. I did have a little bit of skepticism because I do have a preference in formulation, and this did not disappoint whatsoever. I feel like I'm getting that same excitement when I got the Mented Cosmetics Everyday Eyeshadow Palette. I love that so very much. Sydney Grace, I think you've joined the ranks of my Mented Cosmetics palette. This is so rich, buttery, creamy. The shimmers are, oh, sweet Jesus, the shimmers, like I can't explain. the shimmer quality in this palette, every single one of them, mind you. I cannot stop looking at the gradation of my 3 matte shades on the outer corner to the transition. Seamless, beautiful, and you know that that is my soft spot. The way that eyeshadows transition and blend into each other, that is everything to me. If I had to compare it to any other eyeshadow quality, I think it's closest to Natasha Denona, especially with the shimmers. Like the shimmers are just like, oh, they're so buttery. And I find that Natasha Denona's mattes are a lot richer but easy to blend out, and that's definitely the case with the Sydney Grace formula as well. And that is it for my review, my first experience with Sydney Grace. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to do more looks with this palette. Let me know if you'd like me to do like a 3 looks or 5 looks, 1 palette. If not, then I'm definitely going to be using it in future videos, so just be on the lookout. Again, here is our final makeup look. I will be listing everything in the description box down below, and I'll also be adding a link to every single product that I used. Just remember that most of them are magic links, which means they are affiliated, and I do make a small commission every time you make a purchase. I also do post most of my makeup looks on Instagram, which is the first link in the description box down below. That is where you can find a photo of my makeup look along with all the products in the caption. Till the next video, I hope you all are doing well, taking great care of yourselves. I will see you all next time. Bye guys.